Ruby Hart stood at the entrance of the prestigious vineyard, clad in a simple raincoat and sturdy, practical boots. The morning had started with bright sunshine, drawing a diverse assembly of elite guests eager for the exclusive wine-tasting experience. Ruby, the tour guide assistant, had introduced herself to the crowd with a soft voice, passing unnoticed in the bustle of refining chatter. The guests, adorned in luxury, passed her by without a glance, focused on the clinking glasses and whispered appraisals of vintage quality. Ruby quietly carried brochures and maps, always a step behind the sharply dressed tour leader who escorted the group along perfectly manicured rows of vines. Her attire seemed out of place against the backdrop of sun-dappled elegance. Some guests shot glances her way, judgment skating silently across features as they noted her plainness, her practical attire in contrast to their opulence. The vineyard's beauty shimmered in the light, with grapevines swaying gently under an azure sky. Restless whispers floated behind her, snippets of dismissive comments about her unpolished Midwest accent and assumptions of her being a mere vineyard laborer. As the tour reached the edge of the vineyard, thick clouds rolled in swiftly, darkening the landscape. Suddenly, a fierce wind picked up, pushing through the rows with an unexpected fury. The sky split open with a blinding sheet of rain, concealing the once clear view. Amidst the storm's wrath, panic erupted, a child's shrill cry for help lost in the tumultuous wind. The guests scattered, some seeking shelter among the trembling vines, and within moments, the tour's serenity transformed into confusion. A mother's frantic calls echoed, her child nowhere in sight. As the storm unleashed its fury over the vineyard, chaos ensued among the assembled guests. Shouts erupted, muddled with the sound of torrential rain pounding against leaves and earth. The child was missing amidst the gray curtain of water, his mother's pleas swallowed by the wind's howl. The thundering storm caught everyone off guard, and the organized tour quickly disintegrated into a melee of panicking individuals desperately seeking refuge or trying to help. Ruby remained steady in the storm's grip, her mind oddly clear despite the urgency. She glanced around at the bewildered faces, noting the tour leader frozen with uncertainty, his authority overtaken by the sudden calamity. The guests' high-pitched cries mingled with thunder, creating an overwhelming cacophony. Summoning inner resolve, Ruby took a decisive step forward. She felt an unexpected surge of confidence and purpose as she turned to the distressed group, her voice rising above the chaos, surprisingly firm and steady. "People, please listen. We need to organize and find the child. Form pairs and stay close to each other to avoid getting lost." Her commands cut through the confusion, and despite initial skepticism, the guests began to follow her instructions. Ruby's voice, assertive and composed, seemed to steady them. She offered reassurance amidst the storm's threatening demeanor. The flashlight emerged from her raincoat's deep pocket, its beams slicing through the gloomy downpour, guiding her determination. Ignoring the incredulous glances and background murmurs questioning who she thought she was, Ruby moved with purpose. She had learned long ago to trust her instincts, and they spoke loudly now, urging her to stay focused amidst mocking impediments. With the flashlight held steady in her hand, Ruby directed the pair of closest guests to manage the young children among the group, ensuring their safety first. Though skeptical, the guests gradually complied, their stunned silence slowly morphing into coordinated action. While others hesitated, Ruby's confidence in the improvised search plan inspired cautious belief. Her clear perception of the vineyard's expanse aided her directives, each row and pathway etched into memory from long walks during quieter hours. The driving rain obscured everything in its path, the vineyard's pathways slippery underfoot. Ruby maneuvered with careful agility, scanning the vine-covered lanes, her whistle piercing the relentless storm winds. Her movements belied a sense of calm urgency, purposefulness amid overwhelming circumstances. As Ruby tread further into the rows, the vineyard's geometry became less a maze and more of a structured challenge, her mind recalling every navigation technique she had ever mastered. Her flashlight illuminated the hidden places within this lush, green universe, her heart hopeful to find the lost child held within nature's embrace rather than its grip. Minutes stretched, taut with tension, as Ruby methodically backtracked and expanded her search pattern, anticipation tightened around her heart. Then, cutting through the drumming rain, came a small, trembling voice just beyond the nearby row. The child clung to the security of a vine stake, soaking wet and scared yet unharmed. Ruby crouched beside him swiftly, soft words of comfort flowing with ease as she soothed the boy's distress. He flinched from the abrupt noise of the storm, but her voice, gentle yet unwavering, offered the promise of safety and warmth. Resolute and practiced hands wrapped the child in a reflective emergency blanket she retrieved from another pocket, creating a cocoon of promise around his fragile form. With tender authority, Ruby lifted the child into her arms, relieved of their harrowing encounter yet conscious of their tether to the chaos behind. Walking confidently through familiar, saturated pathways, she returned to the despairing mother with a reassuring gaze and her precious child bundled amid fragrant vines, now a hero made by necessity. The storm's madness, which had moments earlier swept through, began to relent, revealing a scene transformed by her unwavering resolve. Ruby approached the previously scattered group amid clearing skies. Unnoticed side glances gave way to astonished gazes, their skepticism dissolving away with each step she took. The wet journey back was filled with silent awe instead of the storm's din, its witnesses now respectful observers of Ruby's silent triumph. In those rain-soaked rows, Ruby Hart had revealed herself. Her calm demeanor and swift plan of action turned tides of turmoil into renewed serenity, altered perceptions with her spontaneous remedy, forging admiration out of arrogance and gratitude from mockery. The vineyard regained its peaceful air as droplets glistened on the vibrant foliage under the softened storm. Ruby's rescue efforts had spared more than just an outcome, crafting respect for her ability forged from trials long past, rendered clear within her distinctive presence among the prestigious. The group clustered together at the vine's end, warmth carrying through as the storm abated. Mocking voices quieted, replaced with soaked gratitude and "thank you" flowing reverently into the vineyard's echoing corridors. Ruby had redefined the day, changing how she stood among them, now no longer a figure easily ignored, ideas fostered by necessity validated. As the child was returned to his family, the elite setting became a testament to courage quiet, thrive in rings of dark clouds and rainfall, a simple assistant's presence emerging vital from within the serene vineyard heart. Amidst the dispersed crowd, Ruby felt remarkably present. Though the storm stirred chaos, her resolve stayed steadfast, guiding lost children into light and recognition into earned existence. A simple raincoat could not diminish her strength nor mastery, her path already cleansing beyond awaiting skies. As the commotion subsided at the vineyard, Ruby found herself standing quietly at the edge of the crowd. The child was safe, held close by grateful parents now expressing their immense relief and appreciation. A sense of calm gratitude spread among the guests, the devastation of the storm now only a memory slipping through the receding clouds. In this quiet moment, Ruby felt the tendrils of her past unfurling in her mind, weaving their stories through her present reality. The scene transported her back to another place, another time, before personal tragedy had compelled her to leave behind a lifestyle she had once embraced with fervor. In her mind's eye, she was no longer standing in a vineyard amidst retreating raindrops. She was back in the wilderness of the distant mountain ranges she used to call home. Years earlier, Ruby had been a skilled wilderness survival instructor. Those crisp dawns amidst towering pines and the exhilaration of teaching eager adventurers the means to endure and thrive in unforgiving terrains had once been her lifeblood. Her expertise went beyond mere survival. She taught the nuanced art of emergency response and first aid to those willing to learn in remote, challenging environments. Flashes of memory returned in brilliant clarity, a particularly harrowing rescue mission on a snowy mountaintop where Ruby's calm precision had saved multiple lives, coordinating efforts amid an impending avalanche. Her instincts had always been critical, sharp as the cutting wind over glacial peaks. The gratitude of those whose lives she had touched back then resonated deep within her, a quiet testament to the importance of her contributions. The faces of those she once trained and aided floated through her mind, mingling with her own determined, younger visage captured in old photographs that now collected dust. Her former life had been one of adrenaline and selfless dedication, overshadowed by the shadowy potential for danger. Yet though she had been at the peak of her career, a single tragic moment had shifted everything. The devastating memory of losing her partner during a less fortunate rescue engulfed her life like a sudden storm. The avalanche had claimed him, taking with it a part of Ruby's spirit. Overwhelmed by grief, the mountains that had once symbolized freedom now stood as reminders of profound loss. Confronted by such intensity, the solid ground beneath her feet had crumbled. Trying to find solace, Ruby had left behind the world she knew, exchanging the mountain trails for quieter pastures where storm winds would not threaten to unearth her fragile emotional balance. She had journeyed to regions far away, picking up simple jobs to maintain herself while keeping her once vital skills tightly wrapped in the past. At the Vineyard, she had welcomed its shared quietude and safety net of predictable steadiness. The lush rows of vines offered a safe harbor from unfathomable choices and unforeseen storms. Occasionally, as she walked among the grapes at dawn when solitude belonged to the vines, she silently practiced old maneuvers or recited emergency protocols to herself, unwilling to let those abilities fade entirely. She knew, in essence, she was denying a part of herself by refusing to acknowledge the power of her past actions and achievements. Yet societal anonymity became integral. Hiding her former identity kept heartbreak at arm's length, shielding her from the consuming tides of emotional buoyancy. Numerous times, she absorbed the quips about her ordinariness like armored scales, comfortable within it to avoid reliving the contradictions of her past heroism or the expectations it would call forth. Standing amidst the Vineyard guests today, lives intertwined, Ruby sensed the acknowledgement from those who hadn't seen her before. A shift caused by transcending desperation's frantic wish and transforming it into salvation's calm deliverance. Her life's sharply etched watermark illuminated against the backdrop of recent events. In her mind's clarity, Ruby reconciled this present reality with memories of wilderness elements, not as a final refuge but a guide, urging resilience, fostering empathy. The darkness carried by renewal began dissipating, leaving contours of strength woven within her soul, cast wider by familiar sky's expanse. Ruby's past and present converged in this vineyard haven, leading her to reflect on what had maintained her inner fortitude and what truly defined her essence. She no longer felt the conflict between herself and her history as dissonance sharpened into harmony alongside monochromatic rainbows lingering in a sunlit gala's soothing aftermath. As Ruby watched those she had helped disperse, their conversation resuming vibrance under a renewed sky, she understood she could no longer veil the intersection between her unpretentious presence and knowledgeable leadership forged from a lifetime of trials and training. She could see a path forming that made homage to her previous life and opened new opportunities within her future, peaks waiting to challenge unknowable defenses. She felt she could finally embrace the adventurous spirit that was undeniably part of her without retreating into safety to numb herself from unmanageable echoes. Listening to laughter roll toward the horizon, Ruby made peace with the mountain challenges and vineyard dutifulness she had steered through so far. Rather than reject those intertwined realities' ambivalent patterns, she chose now to put faith in them. Her resolve ignited, impelling Ruby toward possibilities unexplored, no longer constrained by fear or hesitant to touch long-buried echoes. For around every bend, beyond every storm, the innovator within her still yearned, for discovery, for renewal, for a return beyond roots toward the broader light. As the storm's aftermath settled, leaving behind a landscape decorated with shimmering droplets, Ruby found herself standing at the outskirts of the crowd, absorbing the newfound calm. Gratitude rippled through the gathered guests, ushering a subtle change in their demeanor toward her. Where there once was indifference or faint disdain, now grew a respectful recognition, the silent observer transformed into a figure of competence and heroism. The child's reunion with his parents had been a poignant touchpoint, eliciting an emotional outpouring that echoed through the rows of recovered vines. As guests gradually composed themselves from the storm's surprise assault, the mother approached Ruby, tears of gratitude in her eyes, and offered a heartfelt thank you. Her voice trembled, but her sincerity was unwavering, acknowledging Ruby's vital role in turning potential tragedy into a moment of relief. Others soon followed suit, echoing their appreciation for Ruby's decisive actions. Respect shaded their previously dismissive tones, replaced with genuine admiration. The Vineyard's official, who had initially led the group, nodded with newfound respect, acknowledging Ruby not only as an assistant but as someone who had displayed remarkable capability in times of crisis. In the days that followed, the incident began to circulate rapidly, both among local circles and on social media. Videos taken by guests featuring Ruby's calm and coordinated directive for rescue found their way online, spreading through platforms with headlines proclaiming her the Vineyard heroine. Posts hailed her cool-headedness amidst chaos, celebrating her resourcefulness. It wasn't long before a local news station's interest was piqued, leading to an impromptu interview with the parents whose child Ruby had saved. Broadcast on local television, the emotional interview highlighted Ruby's heroics. As the mother recounted the unfolding events, her voice broke into grateful sobs, praising Ruby not only as a rescuer but as someone whose courage had been unsung and unnoticed before that pivotal moment. In this public declaration, Ruby's quiet diligence was elevated, instilling her presence in the community consciousness as a pillar of unexpected strength. Amidst this newfound attention, Ruby's life at the Vineyard shifted. Co-workers who had once brushed past her with indifference now exchanged warm greetings. Their settlements of camaraderie wrapped her in a new, inclusive warmth, no longer defined by the roles assigned to her but rooting in genuine association. Her presence demanded acknowledgement, a validation Ruby met with a blend of humility and acceptance. As curiosity about the assistant-turned-hero soared, it wasn't long before the internet unearthed pieces of Ruby's past. An enterprising blogger discovered archival articles profiling her earlier career as a well-respected wilderness survival instructor, along with snapshots from her days actively teaching. Among these were photos of Ruby in her element, confident, purposeful, mentoring others in the art of survival and emergency responses in rugged terrains. The revelation met with fascination. Guests and Vineyard staff who re-encountered her the following days enthusiastically approached Ruby with newfound admiration, engaging her in conversations expressing both marvel and unwavering curiosity. It was as if each shared story, each nostalgic gaze at the past had converted her struggle into an emblem of admirable tenacity, serving to unite her multifaceted existence with the reality she lived now. Despite the validation and attention, Ruby remained mindful of the delicate equilibrium between her past deeds and the simplicity she cherished in her present work. She embraced the evolving perspective with grace, allowing reminiscence to guide rather than consume her, weaving the fibers of her experiences into a tapestry of self-awareness and empowerment. As whispers of her story spread through word of mouth, a broader reconnection began to unfold, fostering an environment that transcended the day's dramatic events. It taught guests and colleagues to see beyond the visible, embracing the unseen stories and quiet achievements hidden within their midst. The Vineyard's ambience underwent a subtle change. Respectful glances, spontaneous expressions of gratitude, and the occasional inquiry about her past and present merged with vine-laden strolls. This new energy enriched the ethos of the historical Vineyard, seeds sown in interactions that had always reached beyond the mere flavors of their sun-ripened clusters. For Ruby, this rediscovery of herself, how she fit into the Vineyard's narrative, harkened back to strengths she had believed all but forgotten. This renewed vigor inspired not only her colleagues but left a profound mark on the atmosphere she walked through daily. Her interactions deepened. Her sense of belonging grew. The Vineyard acknowledged her in this gentle transition from anonymous simplicity to revered acquaintance. Guests now greeted her by name, lingering for conversations that extended beyond polite inquiries, asking of her well-being, her thoughts on the weather, even insights into the Vineyard's palpable magic imbued in its sprawling rows. Ruby spoke with an inspired humility, projecting past experiences forward, forming an architecture of personal resonance entwined with every vine-laden column. This cross-pollination of perspectives transformed her simple assistant role into a symbiosis of solace and competence, a vineyard brimming with life lessons and woven stories. As the sun's warmth tilted into autumn's embrace, Ruby stood connected both to her grounding roots and the implications her path now carved. Her redemption after the storm had cultivated fertile grounds for authenticity, an intermingling of past and present, self-doubt and revelation, outward community and internal resilience. her humanness now mirrored in the curved vines, bearing visible fruit. As the days turned into weeks, the vineyard settled back into its usual tranquility, though permanently infused with the subtle hum of Ruby's newfound legacy. The air was crisp with the onset of autumn, yet it was also alive with the familiarity of gratitude from those who had witnessed her courage in action. Her daily duties as a tour guide assistant took on fresh meaning, enriched by the respect she had earned from both colleagues and guests. A glint of possibility surrounded Ruby now, an opportunity to integrate her past into her present. The local grape harvest festival was nearing, drawing an even larger crowd than usual, promising another day of bustling energy and interaction. Within this cultivated landscape, Ruby felt increasingly at ease, her role expanding informally as she became a quiet yet essential part of the vineyard's story. One afternoon, as the golden hour painted the vineyard in amber tones, Ruby was approached by a stranger who had blended into the crowd, observing her with a purpose. He introduced himself as Nathan, an administrator for an elite emergency training academy. Nathan was unassuming in appearance, amiable yet professional, and held himself with the knowing air of someone who had long observed resilience in others. "We've heard about you and what happened here during the storm," Nathan began, his voice warm and engaging. "Your story has been quite inspiring, and many who've seen it have been moved by your dedication and instinct." Ruby listened, intrigued and a bit apprehensive at what this meeting might entail. Nathan continued, offering her a place in their elite paramedic recertification program, an opportunity to train in advanced techniques and perhaps instruct others in the art of emergency response. The proposal sparked conflicting emotions within Ruby, a blend of excitement and hesitation. Memories of her past life edged into her consciousness, the exhilaration of leading, followed by the pain of loss. For a moment, the vineyard's comforting simplicity seemed to contrast sharply against the world she had left behind. "I know it's a significant change," Nathan acknowledged, keenly observing her internal struggle. "And I understand if you're not ready to revisit that part of your life. It's just, people like you make a difference, and we'd be honored to have you bring your experience and insight to others in training." The invitation lingered in Ruby's thoughts, a possibility she had not considered until her actions during the storm were celebrated and shared. For so long, she had harbored her skills privately, quietly, but this chance held the promise of healing, redeployment of her talents into teaching rather than risking. It offered not just professional re-entry but personal growth, a reconciliation with her past. For days, Ruby mulled over the prospect. Encouraging words emerged from those she had touched, their voices whispering support into her contemplative nights. The remembered serenity of saving a life amidst chaos provided clarity in ways she never anticipated, hinting at the larger picture she was now destined to embrace. Finally, with autumn settling across the vineyard like an enveloping quilt, Ruby made her decision. She approached Nathan with renewed purpose, a mixture of acceptance and resolve in her stance. "I've realized that staying hidden from my past won't move me forward," Ruby confessed honestly. "It's time I honor the skills I've nurtured, the lives I can still impact." Nathan welcomed her decision with genuine satisfaction, eager to bring Ruby into the fold of mentors and instructors who were united by their commitment to education and emergency preparedness. As the plans were set in motion, Ruby began to view the path ahead not with trepidation but with anticipation for the unknown challenges and purpose it held. On her final day at the vineyard, Ruby stood amongst the grapevines for one last quiet moment, the gentle tendrils whispering the farewell embrace of a familiar sentinel. Yet this farewell was not marked by regret but by a deep, abiding appreciation for the sanctuary they'd provided, a force strong enough to nurture her evolution and ready her for the next chapter. Her new journey beckoned and soon presented her with a fresh horizon, one filled with promise and revelation amidst familiar tools, uniforms, lesson plans, eager minds ready to learn from her once hidden insights. The morning she joined the academy, Ruby donned the crisp uniform, a symbol not only of her renewed career but her reborn confidence and acceptance. The academy became her launchpad, a place vibrant with possibility, where she discovered strength amid supportive peers and grateful trainees. Ruby found herself photographed leading enthusiastically, her voice bringing wilderness survival tactics and emergency strategies alive with practiced ease. She was introduced to a committed, collegial exchange of experience, willing and ready to touch lives once again through imparted wisdom. She met each day with the conviction that she'd finally woven together past strength and present grace into the fabric of her identity. Returning home after long yet fulfilling days, Ruby embraced the warmth of family, her young niece clinging tight as Ruby spun tales of adventures each sunset gifted her. Smiles and laughter wrapped around her world, free from shadows cast by echoes of loss. There grew strength anew, no longer invisible under turbulent skies but flourishing amid tender light. Ruby's story now connected through vines and classrooms, her legacy imprinted across hearts guided forward. Like an oak growing from seeds once hidden, she had nurtured destined roots touching cloud-kissed mountaintops once more. Every emergency conquered became an echo harmonized from whispers, building the songs of one who chooses life's brilliance over obscured paths. Her worries dispelled, insecurities surpassed, Ruby Hart faced the world anew, a beacon of empathy and resilience for those who needed guidance through rain-soaked uncertainty. No longer was she simply searching, now, she was found. The Vineyard had released her spirit of flight to embrace what lay beyond, knowing its calm had set her free, never caged by silence but urged ever onward by swift purpose's call.